Washington, D.C. In 1987, a group of bold new artists met here to form what has become one of the most controversial schools of art in recent history. As most great schools of art, their contribution was not recognized until well after the school had disbanded. It is only now that their achievements can be fully realized. In the next half hour, we will meet 6 artists who changed the way people think about art. And we will discuss the mark they have left on American culture. It was late November 1987 when a group of artists calling themselves the Neo-Post-Minimalists first met here in the now famous Soup Can Gallery in the Vietnamese district of Clarendon. Now, these artists, though bold in scope, could never have imagined the impact that they would have on modern art in the 20th century. They attacked the same issues that contemporary artists had been trying to deal with for years, but they did so with new media and techniques. They used such things as fire, videotape, and commercial items, and they presented a striking lack of imagery which communicated what they saw as the decline of morals, the temporary nature of the late 1980s. Neo-post-minimalism made history in this room. Looking on the surface like a hastily abandoned gallery, it was undoubtedly one of the most consistent representations of conceptual art in the 20th century.
I finished my food, and there was all this paper in front of me. You know, all these wrappers were sitting there just waiting to be put in the trash, to be taken off in some plastic garbage bag, put in a truck, and hauled off to a dump to spend all of eternity in some landfill. All the while, all this plastic is emitting CFCs into the atmosphere, which is poking a hole right in the ozone layer. 20 years from now, everyone's going to have skin cancer and wrinkles by the time they're 25.
So, what was his motivation?
I had all these negative feelings. I had to channel them into something more positive.
And channel it he did. The result, this piece, entitled, "A Dozen Are Gone." To some, an empty box of donuts. But to others, keen to the qualities of great art, it means a great deal more.
Art is intended to stir emotion, to cause conflict. Once the box contained donuts, now it contains nothing. But it's still a box. It still exists, but it's lost its function, its reason for being. Today's society just has no use for things with no purpose. But it does have a place for art. And I thought, what if we displayed things that had no purpose as art? That would confuse the hell out of people. And out of confusion comes order. You know, it's one of those Zen kind of things, the yin, the yang, that kind of stuff.
Picasso had his bicycle seat. Warhol, his cans of Campbell's soup. Ease had his Dunkin' Donuts box. This object will be studied by art historians for years and will be the inspiration for generations of artists yet unborn. The comparison between Warhol and Ease is obvious and well-deserved. But where did all this come from? And what was it that influenced the school's founders so much that they took such bold steps into uncharted territory? Most experts believe that the earliest influences lie in the works of the Dada school. Duchamp asked, can one make works that are not works of art? With his famous piece, Fountain, Duchamp was challenging the viewers to not make a judgment on the art, but to ask themselves, is it art? He forced the viewers to develop their own definition of art. In the 1960s, artists were again concerned with the redefinition of art. The minimalists, in a reaction to Expressionism, purged all qualities from their art, leaving only the object itself. Robert Morris issued a notarized statement of aesthetic withdrawal, which removed all aesthetic quality and content from one of his sculptures. The ideas of minimalism were revived in the 1980s with the work of Joel Shapiro and others. These artists were testing the limits of minimalism. Neo-post-minimalists purged their art of everything, including the objects themselves. In this series, by artist John Blanc, the artist removed the paintings, leaving only the nameplates, the only indication that the art had ever been there. Now, the one thing that the minimalists neglected to purge from their art was the creative process. But the neo-post-minimalists purged even the process by which the art is created. The only thing that was left was the artist laying the creative burden squarely upon the viewer.
I'm not here right now. At the tone. Leave an idea.
This piece, entitled Title Needed Part 2 by neo-post-minimalist Terry James, had a different slant on society. The late 1980s, because of the decline in educational standards combined with the popularity of television and video games, left much of the population feeling like viewers rather than participants. Since it was so easy to let machines do the thinking and the doing, there was no need for creative thought. This left the artist in the predicament of having no idea to represent. The gallery owner, Philip Seven.
Title Needed Part 2. Oh yes, I remember that piece. It was so striking and new. Sure, he could have called it something like Untitled, but that would have been such a cop-out. That was the old, that was yesterday, that was last month. He was screaming, "This is what's new this week. Look at me."
Wendy McBride, companion to the artists, though not an artist herself. She was a constant presence at the commune. Here, she gives insight into the complex world of Terry James.
Terry had become very withdrawn. He didn't have any ideas. He hadn't done anything in over a year. He was just lying around the house, reading and watching TV. And then one day, I took him to the Hirshhorn, and after that, he came up with the idea for the piece.
This program solicited an interview with Mr. James, and after protracted negotiation, the artist agreed.
Have a seat.
Mr. James, I am Darian Debris, moderator of the television special, The Living Art. Now, Mr. James, can you please tell us about your next exhibit that will be opening at the Whitney later this month?
Oh yes, Debris. I remember you. You're the one who did the hatchet job on John Blanc.
Mr. James, the exhibit, sir.
Oh yes. The exhibit. I don't suppose you'd have any suggestions.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'm always amazed how you and the other artists associated with the neo-post-minimalist movement have encompassed your idea into your very life. Why, there are reports, sir, that you have become something of a recluse, that you never leave your hermetically sealed apartment in Manhattan.
I do not look at it as having become a recluse.